I've spent most of my entire life surfing. The rest I've wasted. Anonymous.
It seems that the oceans of the world have become many things to many different people. For some, the ocean is a source of food and income. For others, a source of inspiration and fascination. For some, a beautiful garden with hidden depths to explore, and for others, a dumping ground for their toxic waste. But of all people, the ones that probably appreciate, admire, and perhaps even understand the changing landscape of the ocean best are surfers. Surfing, which is thought to have originated among the Polynesian peoples of the Hawaiian Islands of the Pacific Ocean, has been around for quite some time. The earliest recorded account of it was made in the journal of Captain King, a contemporary of Captain Cook, in 1779. But there are pictures of surfers carved into volcanic rock that are thought to date back much further. Surfing was regarded by the Polynesians as the sport of kings. The chiefs used surfing and other Hawaiian sports to display their strength and agility, and even the types of wood used for the boards was determined by the person's rank in society. Nowadays, the hierarchy between surfers is determined more by their courage, and none are more courageous than the surfers who brave the jaws of Maui, where 20 feet is considered an average-sized wave, and big can go up as high as 60 or 70 feet. The huge waves of Maui are created by a mixture of unusual circumstances. There is a huge ridge deep below the sea's surface that was created by the lava flow from a volcano. This combined with the presence of a reef not far to the north of the island and swells created by winter storms some 2,000 miles away in the Aleutian Islands can create the kind of waves that make a surfer's heart race. The people who regularly surf there are almost religious about the spot, and they frequently monitor weather forecasts and wave readings from buoys for days in advance to calculate when the best conditions will be. A ride on the jaws of Maui can last less than half a minute, but for surfers who fail to keep pace with the 25-mile-an-hour waves, extreme danger awaits. Trapped inside a wave, they can become totally disorientated with little sense of which direction takes them up to the surface. They also have only seconds to head for the safe zone of calm water before being crushed by the next big wave. A British surfer who had this experience described the sensation as like having your whole body pulled in every possible direction at once. The idea of surfing, however, with its images of sun-tanned youths and tropical beaches, has always seemed to me somehow at odds with the weather and culture of the UK. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. The UK, being a collection of islands, has no shortage of coastline and rugged seas, and is reported to have an active surfing community of some 250,000. Most of the surfing centres around Croyd Bay in North Devon and Fistral Beach in Cornwall. It was in fact at Fistral Beach in 1989 where the world record for the most surfers on one board was broken, when 12 surfers rode on a 37-feet longboard. Britain was also home to the first ever university degree course in surfing to be offered, and even has its own surfing film. Blue Juice, which was filmed in the southwest of Britain, is a light-hearted tribute to the lifestyle of Britain's surfers and counts Welsh girl Catherine Zeta-Jones and Ewan McGregor among its cast. The lifestyle and the people it portrays are very different from the stereotypes of muscular, bronzed young men listening to the Beach Boys as they wax their boards. But beneath the surface, it is clear that there is still a common link that runs between them, and that is their love and admiration of life and the sea.
And now the guest list, in which an interesting person lists some interesting things.
And our guest this week is author Leigh Bardugo. She first cracked the New York Times bestseller list with the Grisha trilogy, a young adult fantasy series set in a world based on Tsarist Russia. Right now, her new novel is the best-selling young adult book in the land. Here's Leigh to tell us about it and her list.
Hi, I'm Leigh Bardugo. I'm the author of Six of Crows. It is a fantasy novel that I always describe as Ocean's 11 meets Game of Thrones. It is a magical heist book, but it is young adult. And I know that that sends some people running, and it shouldn't, because young adult is not a genre. It is a marketing category. It is just designed to get more kids to read books. But you'll find a lot of adults reading them too, and that's because this category has so much to offer. I'm going to introduce you to 3 titles that are labeled young adult, but that are for everyone, no matter their age. My first pick is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. Now, this is the one you are most likely to have heard of. It's been on the bestseller list a long time, and it's about 2 people, Eleanor and Park, who fall in love over music and comics in the 1980s. It hits that nostalgic sweet spot for adults. When you hear these kids describe the first time they hear Love Will Tear Us Apart, if it doesn't move you, you are dead inside. Here's the thing, we are used to seeing these kind of saccharine teen romances, and yes, there are lots of cutesy romps that you can find in young adult. Eleanor and Park is something different. Rainbow Rowell writes falling in love with this beautiful clarity and this humor that, trust me on this one, it will resonate with you. My second pick for adults, particularly adult fantasy fans, is The Young Elites by Marie Lu. I want you to picture a superhero story set in a world inspired by Renaissance Italy. It follows a girl named Adelina, who has been through a horrible plague and has been left scarred, but also with an extraordinary power, as have several other kids who find each other through this story as they are hunted by the authorities. Now, I know this may sound a little familiar. Yes, they're familiar tropes, but Marie Lu is really turning them on their head. Adelina is basically like a young Vader. This is a supervillain story. It's young Vader in her prime. This book will leave you wondering who's in the right and who's in the wrong. You won't know whether to cheer for the authorities or cheer for Adelina, who is becoming darker, more brutal as she goes. And one of the things I love about this is I don't see a lot of female anti-heroes or villains. Marie has brought that to the young adult world. My third pick is a young adult graphic novel by Jean Yang about race, being an underdog, about family. It's called The Shadow Hero. And The Shadow Hero tells the story of the first Asian superhero. He's a Chinese-American teenager named Hank. We see Hank working side by side with his father in their neighborhood store. And we also see Hank's disappointment in his father when he fails to stand up to some neighborhood enforcers who are looking to extort money out of them. The hero of the story initially tries to be a superhero, but he doesn't have superpowers, and so he gets a terrible beatdown, and there are tremendous repercussions from it. But his mom is really not willing to let the matter rest. She pushes him into continuing his role as a hero, and in fact, she drives the getaway car. She's basically his sidekick for his first couple of jobs, and their dynamic is amazing. We all have these tremendous moments of transition, and that's what these books speak to. They speak to upheaval. And I think we can all relate to that. We get married, we get divorced, we have kids, we start a new job, we move to a new city. We're always trying to define ourselves and find our tribes. That's why adults seek out young adult books.